Hi there, it's Polly here, with Mr. Snoots, who is wise and kind. Yeah. Tea Talk. Ooh, by the way, Tea Talk comes to you in a them mug, which a viewer very kindly sent me. Because I'm really obsessed with cool old monster films. Yeah. So, a comment from a viewer and a question. War games. Are we aggrandising, celebrating, and perhaps even contributing to war? An interesting thing. Short form answer is no. Let's reel this right the way back. So, although games with toy soldiers are quite literally, older than Pharaoh, and in some ways were war play for young idiots, in this latter day and age they are a very different thing. If you followed my videos covering some of the very early Genesis war games, such as H.G. Wells' Little Wars, such as Pratt's Naval War Game, you'll see these are being seen more literally as an entertainment exercise, taking some very serious problems with so many variables and trying to take the childhood innocent fun really of playing with these soldiers and putting them into a more adult context, but leaving the childhood fun into the calculation. We can't just play Piao Piao You're Dead. We need some sort of rules and some sort of context. And if you look at the rules as war games, miniature war games, came to fruition in the late 60s and then moving into the early 70s, the people that are writing these are very often military people. At the very least, they're people who've served very often in World War II. So the books by Donald Featherstone, when you see things like his Tank Battles Adventure, that guy was, he was a tanker in World War II. He was in vehicles that got hit. He had friends that died. And when you read the rules, he has some very visceral historical moments to him that he places into these books, and he turns these into vivid experiences in the gaming field, so he brings it to life. There's very much a feel of these of never again. This mustn't happen again. But so, from my personal experience, war games opened worlds. It's not just playing a game against someone else, and the fun of that is wonderful. But it's the research and the realization that the world's actually a richer place. As a small creature, I discovered the Purple Primer, the Airfix Guide to Ancient War Games. There it was when I was 12 and first went to high school. There was this in the school library, and I opened it and read it. And first off, here's this amazing thing, because I was really into history. I'd travelled Europe as a child many times. I was fascinated by knights and castles and Romans and this sort of thing. So here's this amazing game that can bring this to life. And finally I can afford the figures. But there's all these things that I haven't heard of. Here's this. Now, I'd been to Istanbul and everything as a child, so I'd walked the Byzantine walls. I knew what they were. But here's like Byzantine troops, miniatures, photographed. Wow, this guy's with banners with Cairo XPI symbols on them, icons on their shields, this sort of thing. Amazing. Here's other things I haven't heard of. Sassanid Persians. Here's the Macedonian successor armies. So here's the Seleucids. Here's the Ptolemaics. Oh my God. I didn't know these things. Plus familiar things like New Kingdom Egyptians and so on, but here's the Hittites and so on. So I started reading. I delved in, and there are other war games books by luminaries like Charles Grant and so on. And here's these things giving you the history of like the Battle of Kadesh in 1272 BC. Ramses versus the Hittites and so on, and like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is fleshing out a world for young Paulie. I began to go to the university. I borrowed entire theses and so on the expansion of the Seleucid state and what this meant. The Sassanid Empire, read deeply into religious movements in the Sassanid Empire. The world was suddenly richer because here's this history that I would never have accessed without these games. And you began to research into the politics and the people and found out that there was whole communities of people that did this. And I wasn't the only one. Napoleonics was the other thing. As we suddenly realised there's this sort of amazing thing that happened. And yes, we're into uniforms and tactics and horses, but we're actually learning so much and just loving it. It was as if someone had lied to me. The world was far more fascinating than anyone had ever let on. And once the cork was off that genie bottle, wow, yeah, and it's never stopped. I study daily to this day, just so fascinated by just the amazing world that we live in. And this was true for so many people. And when we got down there onto the games table, we're not celebrating, sucking chest wounds or whatever, but we are really interested in kind of modelling the effects realistically of the problems that these people had. What's the problem? What do these weapons and the tactics that the weapons therefore create do? How do we solve these problems? How do we cunningly outwit someone, giving tools that were in the hands of someone at the time? And that's sort of the fun of it. Entirely bloodlessly and joyously outwitting someone. It was funny because in university days we set up a Wargames Club, and of course we actually had some trouble from some people, back there in 1982, who were saying, warmongers, and it's like, no, I wrote an entire eloquent piece about how this is purely a celebration of history. No one has ever played with little plastic Romans and decided to branch out and conquer the world. In fact, exactly the opposite. If you look at a lot of Wargames clubs, you will find a lot of veterans. Many of them are so glad to have left the military life behind because we were all lied to. That life had no romance in it. It had no adventure in it. It had moments of terror, moments of boredom, and just extreme discomfort. But that kind of romance and the problem solving is all there on the table for you in the landscape of your imagination. If I sit down and decide, hey, let's play a game, someone will say, a friend busted in once and just said, I'd really like to play 7 Years' War. I love the look of the uniforms and everything. It seems really fascinating. Do you want to play 7 Years' War with me? Hell yeah, is the first thing I say. I love your enthusiasm. At that stage, only knew about it vaguely. What should we do? So, I really want to make French because I really love French. Fantastic. I happen to study, I did 17th and 18th century history, that's what my degree was in. I'll take Prussian. Why not? Frederick the Great was a complete idiot. He just happens to have some good propagandists, but what the hey, I'll play this, why not? Let's get the books and read. And again, here's the thing I'm suddenly an absolute expert in, and we just have the time of our lives. Some of the funniest campaigns we ever had. No one's celebrating blood and death and abandon, but we do have, as I think I've told you before, me playing Turks in a campaign and just sidling up to people like, what a lovely country you have there. Oh, you're fighting the Russians? Oh, you need insurance. What do you mean insurance? Oh, what if your country burns down while you're out? Terrible accidents happen, but my people could watch this for you and make sure nothing sets fire. So, hey, are you saying that you're going to like accidentally on purpose, raid over my borders and set fire to things? No. But these sort of things happen. Hey, but for 10 gold pieces, I will patrol those borders and make sure that doesn't happen. By the way, I see you want to invade Italy. I could help you do that, but only if you help me capture Rome. Why? Because I think the Turks should capture Rome. I think there should be a Turkish Pope. What? You're right, that's funny. Sold. So you get this sort of, and just people having the time of their lives. Where is it? Here we go. So I've got Little Wars here, H.G. Wells. If you pardon me, it's on screen. Normally I can remember things completely verbatim, but I like what he says here. So he's saying, this is a homeopathic ready for the imaginative strategist. Here are the premeditations, the thrill, the strain of accumulating victory or disaster, and no smashed or sanguinary bodies, no shattered fine buildings, no devastated countryside, no petty cruelties. This is what he was aiming to do. The world is ample for living. We all want security and freedom in every country, except for a few dull-witted and energetic boors. So I offer them this, my game. Let these prancing monarchs, these silly scaremongers, and these excitable patriots, those would-be adventurers, those practitioners of Weltpolitik, let's throw them into one temple of war with cork carpets everywhere, plenty of little trees and little model houses to knock down, cities and fortresses, unlimited boxes of soldiers, and let them lead their lives locked away in there, far away from the rest of us. Charles Grant, in one of his books, he said, imagine a world where the energies of civilization were not put into harm, not into organising weapons, organising multitudes and setting them at each other's throats, where no family mourned the loss of its children, where no father mourned the loss of a son, where friends knew that they could drink together, feast together, be together in eternal fellowship, and where those contentions were all fought on tables with little warriors of lead, and at the end of the day everyone laughs, everyone shakes hands, the soldiers go back into their boxes, the wars are only things of fun and fantasy, and we all go back to fight another war another day. I think it's a sweet vision, and it's one of the inner innocences and purity that makes me love the hobby. So I was just at a club this last weekend. It was an LGBTQ based Wargames Club. I walked in there and there was about 11 trans women playing. There was 3 or 4 trans men. There were some wonderful, amazing queer folk in makeup, just kind of quiet little NBs sitting in corners, and a whole bunch of your typical older gamers, you know, retired old white guys. Sorry for listening, pot guts. Usually the moustache. A couple of them were very obviously, you know, vets. Others are just ordinary historians and, you know, armchair generals. And they're in there and they're playing with everybody else. There's a wonderful old mustachioed guy who's he's been an ex-Australian light horse major and everything. He's there playing against this sort of 21-year-old trans girl, and there they are with the lead armies out there in front of them, having the time of their lives and chatting back and forth at the end of it and having a good laugh together. That's the model world you want. And in this microcosm, that's the world we make. There's no enmities, there's no people honestly at each other's throats. Even the worst player socially in these situations, you know, the worst cheaty pants, the toxic gamer of which I've spoken, even they are not causing, they're not causing capital H harm. They're not out there raising buildings, they're not out there machine gunning innocent people, or, you know, they haven't decided to go and bomb Lebanon. They're just here with their ranks of model soldiers, and they're playing their game, and they're having a good time, and then next weekend they can do it all over again. And may they keep doing it forever, you know, may the afterlife be everyone sitting around playing games and having a good time laughing. There's a magic to the hobby, and a purity to the hobby, and I will love it to death and beyond. We're not celebrating war, we are turning it around into a good thing. We can pluck the intellectual challenge and a celebration of peoples and of politics which have long burned out and contentions that have long blown away. And if we can somehow turn all that into something that in this later age is just innocent fun, That's probably the best fate for those events. That we read and understand and learn from them, and that in the end we turn it into a source of enjoyment, with all harm and all hurt forgotten. Yeah, that's a lovely thing, and that's why I love the hobby. Mr. Snoots has spoken. I will hopefully see you guys around the game table sometime. Yeah, keep rolling the dice, everyone. Bye. Just pushing the button.